Can men get pregnant? Toward the end of a 2.5-hour Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on abortion access and the law, UC Berkeley law professor Khiara Bridges asked Republican Senator Josh Hawley if he believes men can get pregnant. Let's look at their conversation and try to make sense of what happened.
I just want to clear one thing up. Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Wait for it. Senator Hawley is obviously pandering to his base here, and this is an oh-so-thinly veiled attempt at baiting Professor Bridges into verbal jousting.
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
Okay, so trying to be inclusive and use very specific language here, but basically the prof's definition of the capacity for pregnancy seems to be the presence of female reproductive organs.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
They're equivocating, which means using multiple definitions for one word. Senator Hawley is saying a man is defined by testosterone from his testicles, and Professor Bridges is saying trans men are men even though they don't have testicles. What's really important to understand here is that there is no definition of male or female that is always 100% correct. According to the Intersex Society of North America, a Y chromosome usually determines whether a person is male or female, but there are people who are obviously women who have Y chromosomes, and there are men packing all the man gear with no Y chromosomes. It's rare, but it does happen. But let's take it one step further. According to Wikipedia, about 1.5% of live births in developed countries each year are the result of ectopic pregnancies, where the embryo attaches outside the uterus, sometimes even in the abdominal cavity. This means a uterus is not strictly necessary for developing a fetus inside your body, so technically anybody with an abdomen has a capacity for pregnancy.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
Yes, this is the real question. Finally, let's go.
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
Women are the only folks who can have pregnancies? Oops, Senator Hawley accidentally said what he meant. But wait a minute, how does not recognizing trans people open them up to violence?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning? So we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist
I'm
is
denying
dangerous.
that trans people exist.
Did you catch that? Denying trans people exist is dangerous. But dangerous how? Like the self-harming ex who says, "Don't leave me or I'll hurt myself"? Or is it more like, if we don't treat certain people the way they think we should, they'll shoot up our schools? I'm not saying we should bully each other or push people to their limits. Hate hurts everyone. At the same time, no matter what anybody else says or does, as a competent adult, I am ultimately responsible for my actions. The professor's argument actually sounds more in line with the people who think anything other than hetero missionary position is mental illness, as if to say those LGBTIQ plus people are not mentally competent.
Is this by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies?
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get
So you are
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence?
This seems like a catch-22. On the one hand, we have to acknowledge trans people or bad things will happen. On the other hand, if we truly accept trans people, why do we constantly qualify that this person is a trans man or a trans woman? Unless I'm considering sex with this person, I am their doctor, or maybe if I want to accuse them of an unfair advantage in a sport, I just don't see how the reproductive organs are relevant.
Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you, or are they
Absolutely.
also treated like this, where
No,
they're
they're
told
allowed
that
to
they're
question.
opening up people to
Oh,
violence?
we have a good
by
time in my
questioning?
class. You should join.
I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot
I
just in this
know,
exchange.
absolutely.
Extraordinary.
Yep.
Here's what's actually extraordinary: that a politician and a lawyer would take time and attention away from a public meeting about reproductive rights to engage in a staged schoolyard argument in hopes of bolstering their book sales, media coverage, and campaigns. My 8-year-old genius asked me, how did women's rights become an argument about trans people? That's a great question. It took almost 50 years to overturn Roe v. Wade, and now we're looking at another 50 years of legal battles as a result of this decision. Meanwhile, the fact is that the vast majority of pregnant people are women, the old-fashioned cis variety. Whether or not men can get pregnant is irrelevant, because the real issue is about who decides when or if an abortion is an option, and whether the state or the pregnant citizen, regardless of gender, decides if an abortion is right for them in that situation. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.